that blood is oxygenated. The vein blood, by the way, is not oxygenated. So arterial blood, which pumps hard and fast and in long distances, can be a little bit more aerated. It's a little bit lighter because it was all oxygenated. So you can tell what arterial blood spray spatter is. Also, you find what they call expirated blood spatter. This is like example of twice. Once you expirate over here, once over there. This is blown out of the mouth or nose when there's blood on the face and the person breathes and he spatters it out, and as he blows it out and it scatters in a noticeable pattern. It's not always easy to identify the difference between this and, let's say, high velocity or spatter, but you can do it if they see some saliva bubbles are in there, or sometimes you can actually notice it was like lighter because saliva it partly dissolves the blood. So sometimes you can tell that this was expirated blood spatter. It came from because he wheezed, he blew out of his mouth or of his nose. Often this happens, after the person collapses and he's doing this on the floor. So this does show something what happens afterwards. And this is technically not really a blood spatter. A blood spatter evidence, but it's a void is where blood spatter should be, but isn't, because something was there. Here's an example. There was blood spatter. This looks like high velocity. Looks like high velocity blood spatter. And again, I can't tell the size of it could be high velocity or medium velocity, but you can tell by the fine droplets that it was not drips. Anyway, something was here. We know something was there, and that might be a very important piece of evidence to find out what was going on. Or did the person want maybe the thing that was stolen, and the person wanted to take it? Maybe want to know the motive. Again, this is, or maybe it was moved. Maybe someone was that someone else was at the crime scene before the policemen came, and they moved it. So again, these are important ideas to know when you want to reconstruct a crime or find out more about it. There's blood that is not exactly spatter, meaning these are things that they come because the blood was there, not because the blood was splattered there. Like for example, if a person wipes it, either because he's trying to clean it or because he's struggling, and as he's struggling, he's wiping away the blood. So, and this can, or it could be accidental. The criminal, the perpetrator, wiped it away, and he might have left a fingerprint in it, or he might have left a shoe print in it. And again, what wipes the blood also tells us a little bit about what happened. Maybe the person was again struggling after he was damaged, after he was injured. So, and again, this is important to know what happened at the crime scene, a way to reconstruct the crime. For example, maybe if he lived for a lot longer, maybe he might have been kept alive for some reason, maybe to tell a secret. Who knows? Again, these are clues, these are bits of evidence that we use to reconstruct what happens, to understand more about the crime, and hopefully more about ways to catch the criminal. Okay, so as you swipe it, it gets lighter because there's less blood, to go on. In this case, it was a small swipe, so you really don't see it getting lighter. This is just to show that, you can wipe it. This is not really not really one of the classics of showing exactly what a swipe pattern is. But again, from the swipe pattern, we can tell a little bit more about what happened at the crime, during the crime. There are also flow patterns. And this is, again, it's not where it showed up immediately. It's where after it landed, it dripped, it flowed. So this can show that, what kind of a wound it was. It was old. It was an old one. Then it didn't flow. Then it didn't flow that much, or it's old. Older ones they dry up. The blood dries up. It congeals, so it doesn't flow that much. So if it doesn't flow much, maybe you say, wait, this was an older wound. It was not at the same time as the crime of, let's say, a different kind of a flow pattern that you see at the crime scene. So you can sometimes tell maybe this person was there for a longer time, and a new person was just, let's say, captured and injured over there. Who knows? Again, these are clues that will tell us what happened at the crime, during the crime and at the crime scene. Very often, this is actually very important, that blood flow on a body, for example, can show whether the body was moved. For example, if the person, you see the person was bleeding and the blood flowed all the way down his leg, and the person who claims he found the body said, well, the person was in bed and he was stabbed while he was lying in bed. Well, if he'd been lying in bed and he'd be stabbed, let's say, in the chest, the blood would flow downward from the chest to the bed and wouldn't get to his legs. So the very fact that the blood flowed to his legs shows he was standing up, and maybe there was a fight. And it wasn't that he was just, attacked in bed or he died in bed in that way. So the flow pattern can tell more about what happened during the crime. And there are also what are called blood pools, that blood that stays in one place and stays there, builds up in one place. So again, this shows that the victim was there for a long time after he was damaged. And if there's a blood pool, again, you can pretty much recognize that this is where the assault was done. And very often you find skeletonization. That again shows a little bit about the age of the blood. That the edge of the blood, this is really what the picture should be showing. Here we have what was a blood drop over here. The edges dried faster. The person tried to wipe it clean, but as you can see, the edges, they dried and solidified. It didn't get wiped that well. So that, again, shows a little bit about what happened. That if it was skeletonized, meaning it dried off at the edges, even though the middle was wiped off, someone was trying to wipe this away for whatever reason, to clear away the crime scene, to try to get rid of clues, or maybe it was accidentally wiped. But because it's a blood pool, let's say, in this case it's like a blood drop, but it'll be a blood pool which shows skeletonization, it can shows, what was there, and sometimes even how long the blood was there, and therefore enabling us to get, let's say, a time of the attack. And there's the blood drip trails. This is after a person is bleeding and they're walking away, then they leave blood drips as they walk. So as a trail. So this can often lead, it's how you can track where the victim went. And sometimes the victim might have been dragged, and you can find, or carried, and you can find out where the perpetrator went and where he carried the person, to a car, maybe to an abandoned garbage dump where they put the body. These blood drip trails are very important, so we have to document them and make sure you pay attention to them. Sometimes, and very often, the shape of the blood drips and the spacing provides more information. Meaning, if let's say there's blood over here, very evenly located, then you can probably tell the person was moving at the same speed. If let's say you see it's like this, and here, and then suddenly they're very far apart, it means that person might have just started running at this point. Okay, so and again, if they're sprayed, if they're wider, the blood drops were flung. They weren't just dropped. Let's say in this pattern, they were actually flung as the person was running. So this can tell a little bit more about what happened during the crime. Okay, so we've got to. So I think you can be convinced that a lot of the story of the crime can be told by